Hello and welcome back to the Lore Raider. A few days ago I released a video discussing my thoughts on what would happen if the Flood replaced the X-Parasites in the Metroid universe. In that video you might remember me saying this: Samus Aran was a human Chozo hybrid who also had the feat of holding back complete phase-on corruption in Prime 3, unlike all her other Hunter friends, and unlike literally anything else in the verse, she somehow held off the X killing her in Fusion for several hours minimum. Don't know how, but she did it. I, in particular, am looking at her extremely impressive showcase in somehow resisting being killed by the X-Parasites immediately, and not only that, resisted it for a long-ass time. She got it on SR-388, finished her expedition, returned to her ship, crashed onto some asteroids, then got hospitalized and had to wait for the scientists to order in and create the Metroid vaccine, and only then was she saved. That would have taken hours at the minimum. So the question remains, what in the world was happening here? We can immediately rule out the idea that Samus was just so physically powerful she outmuscled the X. We know this cannot be true as A, the intangible nature of the X, and B, this scene here. So I had come up with three different theories as to what's going on here. Theory A is perhaps the power suit slowed down the X. Samus's power armor is part mechanical, part biological, and part spiritual. You could perhaps argue that the X was trying to overpower her equally intangible spirit before attempting to infect her proper. This theory came from a good friend of the channel named Zeratone, who believed that explained why Ravenbeak was the last Mockin to survive, as well as Ravenbeak's armor encloses his whole body, and has a certain sort of shielding technology that stops Samus from hurting him in his second phase. The average Chozo soldier does not have that, so it could explain why he survives. However, that ultimately gets destroyed by the fact that A, vaccine Metroid is given directly to Samus. We even get a scene of the X being destroyed by it in her body. And B, when the X kills Ravenbeak, it doesn't go for his exposed head, it instead goes for his armored back and instantly goes right through it. So, Theory A is dead. Theory B was the idea that the SR-388X strain, as opposed to the ZDR strain, was unused to infesting sapient creatures, which could have stalled its infection. I came to this theory because when ZDR was invaded by the X, only one Chozo soldier was infested at the time, when of course the X were largely non-sapient at the time and incapable of complex strategy. If they could eat more Chozo, they would have. The second piece of evidence was frozen clone Ridley's body, as when he is processed by the X, he doesn't immediately turn into Neo Ridley until much later in the game. As cool as the theory that I thought this was, I then remember the X had no issue killing every single scientist aboard the BSL station, turning them into zombies. The infested Chozo example could be explained away as that now intelligent X intentionally planned to go in alone so it could corner the Chozo on ZDR. And the clone Ridley corpse was probably just so dried out and rotten, it took longer than normal for the X to turn into something useful. So Theory B is out. Theory C, the willpower theory. As we know, Samus had the willpower to resist the phase-on in the Prime games, and of course, being able to resist it in Fusion, you'd think they go hand in hand. And if you believe some theorists, you may believe Quiet Road managed to overpower the X at the end of Dread, even though he was dead. But then I realized that despite how powerful this theory seemed, there are two pieces of evidence that contradict things. Firstly, Ravenbeak. He was a man that murdered his fellow Chozo. He helped create the Metroids. He lured Samus to his planet in an elaborate scheme, and did all manner of evil in the name of his vision for the galaxy. A being as determined as Ravenbeak, by the logic of this theory, should not have died immediately, but yet he did. On top of this, Metroid Federation Force further destroys this theory because we've seen Samus be mentally overpowered in the game by the space pirates of all things and the amplification beam. So if it really was a matter of mental willpower, are we gonna give the credit to the space pirates over the X? I'm just saying. Well, what do you know? Metroid Fusion's biggest plot hole was a little too big for me to plug in. We have really two options. A, Samus Aran is such a badass that she managed to cling on to life and fend off the X-Menace from her body, all because she's Samus Aran. Which is likely, I mean, she's the same woman that can conjure ammunition with her mind for some reason, so, you know. Or B, Samus being a half human, half Chozo, half whatever else is in her genetics, helps slow down the X, which I could have made theory D if it wasn't for the fact that all the Zebesian pirates are part Chozo, and they get eaten really easily, so there's our options. Let me know what you think down in the comment section down below, and leave your own theories as well. Until then, be safe, be wise, and please pray for a true peace in space. Farewell.